Everyone. My name's Kelly and I work at the Reading and Writing Project, and I'm a parent. I'm a mom and I have a fourth grader and two kindergartners. And life is very busy right now, probably more than ever, and not a little bit hard. So I just wanted to make this video for you, caregivers, who maybe, like me, are looking for ways to maximize the time that you have with your kids and to do things that will have a really long-lasting impact and help them. So I'm going to tell you about some of the things that we do during the time when we read to them, which we try to do whenever we can at night. Not every night, but we try our best because I really do think that reading to them helps with so much, especially with helping to build our relationships as a family. So I'm going to talk to you about three things, and if any of them feel helpful to you, I'm really glad. The first thing about our read aloud is I think really hard about what we're reading aloud. I know that I'm in charge of their reading life at home, and I take that responsibility really seriously. What I mean by that is I really think hard about how I can make sure that what they see in picture books or in chapter books is as inclusive as it can be. Dr. Rudine Sims Bishop has said that all children need books that are mirrors and all children need books that are windows. And I think about that when I think about what I'm reading to them. I think, are my children seeing books where they can see people who are like them? And are they reading books where they can see people who live lives that are different than their lives? I think about being inclusive by thinking carefully about race. I have white children. I think this is going well, right? I apologize for that interruption. I have white children. I know that the world around them is steeped in whiteness, and I need to amplify the voices of Black, Indigenous, people of color in my children's lives whenever I can, so that they can grow up fighting for justice and fighting to be anti-racist. And so I think carefully about what we're reading, what we're watching, and what we're having conversations about around those texts. I also think about being inclusive in terms of thinking about family structures. How am I making sure that my students see a variety of ways of being a family? Am I reading them books where there are two moms? Am I reading them books where there are two dads? Am I reading them books where there's a single mom? I think about gender. I think about disability. And I know that I can never do enough. So I hold myself to keep thinking about what I'm reading to them. And I'm a human being on a journey. And I know that I'm doing the best I can with the knowledge that I have right now. But I'm taking it as a serious responsibility that if I want them to grow up and be people who want the world to be better, then I need to make sure that I'm instilling that in them now. And our read aloud time is a key time when I'm choosing the media that's in their lives. And so I'm taking that really seriously. And I have done a lot of learning about that from amazing educators like Dr. Sonia Cherry-Paul, Colleen Cruz, and Arlen Casimir, and BIPOC educators who I have read books by and followed on Twitter, primarily Black female educators. The second tip that I want to give you about read aloud time is to think about how it can be a time for all of you to come together if you have children of various ages, like I do. I have a 9-year-old and I have kindergartners. And so I want to try to find a way, how can I find a way for us all to be together? Because my time's limited. How can I get us all there? So one thing that we do is we have a variety of ways of reading aloud. Sometimes my 9-year-old reads aloud to all of us. Sometimes we take parts. And so my 9-year-old will play the narrator and I'll play one of the characters, or the kindergartners will take turns trying to play a part that they might have memorized from rereading. But the 9-year-old is more interested in doing the read aloud of books with us that she's read lots and lots of times if we kind of have a variety of ways of doing it. So choosing parts and sort of like playing it out as if it's a play or as if it's a scene has brought a lot of joy and fun to our read aloud time. And I am excited about that and wanted to pass that along. Before I go further, I also want to say inclusivity in terms of language. They're not just seeing books that are written purely in English and standardized mainstreamed English. They're seeing a variety of ways of using languages in the text that we're reading. Last tip, talk. Talking about the text that we're reading, talking about the text that we're watching, and not doing it like a quiz, like who was the main character? What happened? But just noticing things. So here's a key phrase that we use. Isn't it interesting that? And we use that phrase, isn't it interesting that, to think about a variety of elements. What's happened? Isn't it interesting that this happened to this character, or that this character said this? Or the way it was created. Isn't it interesting that the illustrator chose to show this part and not this part? Or we could even think about language and conventions like punctuation. Like, isn't it interesting that there's an exclamation point here and not a period? Or isn't it interesting that there's a comma right here? And just, isn't it interesting that? Just raises conversations with them that I think helps them to look more closely at texts and be the kind of people who expect to see complexity and puzzle over things and wonder about things. And it just often raises conversations that go in places that I didn't expect, that I'm grateful for. So those are some things to say about Read Aloud that have helped our family, and I hope that they might be helpful for your family also.